We're going way back in time, talking about game demo discs and gaming magazines. And if you don't know what that means you're either too young or we're too damn old. It's time for another episode of Pixel Realms. Welcome to Pixel Realms, a podcast all about gaming and entertainment. Please leave us a like and subscribe for more content. Let's jump right in with our news for today. Joe?
Nintendo, as always, but Nintendo actually has some interesting news. So the first is Nintendo says 2.2 million people applied for the pre-order for the Switch from the My Nintendo store in Japan alone. So we know that Nintendo is gigantic in Japan, obviously. And that's a big deal. It's a pretty big deal. That shows that at least the people in Japan are super excited about the Switch 2.
Well, they also get like $200 cheaper.
So I was about to say that. Yeah, I would also be super excited about a $200 cheaper Switch 2 as well. And then Nintendo is not delaying or increasing the price of the Switch 2 in the US. And we talked about this in a previous episode, that with the tariffs, we were unsure if Nintendo was going to delay it because there were rumors of that for the US, or potentially increase the price because of the taxes on the Switch 2. But they claim they are not going to do either one of those things. And we'll see. It looks like as of this episode, the 23rd of April, we were recording it, that the Trump administration is pulling back, it sounds like, on some of the tariffs. So we'll see if that continues and if that stays in place when the Switch actually does launch.
Oh, I have heard rumors though that it's not the Switch console that's going to be getting hit with the price increase. It's the accessories.
Oh yeah, Nintendo's crafty.
Yep. So keep an eye on that. I do know that supposedly, unless something changes overnight, that tomorrow, the 24th, is when people should be able to pre-order the Switch, at least here in the U.S. at GameStop, Best Buy, Walmart, etc.
I think it's gonna be interesting to see what the sheer numbers are on launch day that are available. How many stories will you hear on Reddit and whatever it be of people who go into GameStop, Best Buy, etc. to get these consoles and walk out with zero, similar to what you had with the NVIDIA cards, the AMD cards, the processors, etc.
Yeah, I could tell you from personal experience or personal experience, my son is still wants the Switch 2 at launch, so we are going to GameStop in the morning, tomorrow morning, when they open, to pre-order it. I'm probably actually going to go here today and see if I can talk to the person at GameStop, my local one, and just ask them, be like, what advice do you have? We were planning on just being here when you open tomorrow to order, to pre-order what he wants to pre-order, and see what they say.
Yeah. Is GameStop going to be around when Switch 2 comes out?
I mean, we've been saying I know, like you're saying it as a joke, and it is kind of funny, but like we've kind of been saying that for a few years now. Every time I think GameStop's done, they somehow manage. It's really funny because I could tell you my local stores, so it might be all around. They have half of their store now is dedicated to non-gaming. They have it's mostly gaming and entertainment merchandise. They've got figures, collectible statues. Their horrid wall of Funko Pop garbage that those soulless eyes that make me want to like jump off a bridge. T-shirts, Sanrio stuff. Like they've got it's very like gaming. Their gaming sections, even for the major consoles, have gotten smaller. So that's probably how they're staying.
We had a mall, those things that had a bunch of buildings within one building. We had one of those close, the local one near us close, and I'm in a suburb of Chicago. It's nearby us here, closed down, and outside of it, about, I don't know, quarter of a mile away, was a GameStop, and that recently closed as well. So it's I don't know, like we've talked about before, but the last time I've been in a GameStop was almost 5 years ago, And the only reason why I went there was because I had a PS4, had some games, and something else that I no longer used, and we were moving. And I was like, well, might
Hmm.
as well sell them because I don't want to bring this with me. I'm not going to use them again. And so I brought them there, got cash, and that was the end of it. But I have not
Yeah,
bought an
you got a
item from
dollar 50.
GameStop. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I did pretty well because they had a deal going on as well.
Yeah.
But I haven't
Um,
bought anything from GameStop in, I don't know, 8+ years.
well, that's because you're primarily a PC gamer, so I kind of understand that as a PC gamer as well.
Yeah.
And your collectibles are Legos. They don't really do Legos, so
I have some of the
especially
Funko Pop stuff, just a few, but like I don't know, three or four. But yeah,
yeah, but
I'm not catered to what they're looking for.
exactly. So GameStop really isn't a store for you anymore. Because you, especially if you have a Walmart or a Best Buy, or you just rather shop from Amazon for your gaming, your PC gaming related stuff. They do, they do obviously have, game cards and PC accessories, but a lot of the times they're competing with prices on Amazon or Best Buy that they really can't compete unless you have their pro membership, which I do happen to have, which does help a little bit. They're currently, if you're a collector like me, as I've talked about, I collect Transformers again. They're one of the three best places to go in the U.S. for Transformers.
Interesting.
Walmart, Walmart, Target, and GameStop are basically, if you're looking in store to purchase, you go there. Obviously, Amazon is still going to be the best place for a lot of that stuff and a lot of the online stores, but especially with the tariffs coming into play, local store purchasing is probably going to be a better solution for a lot of people who are on a budget but still want to collect those kind of things. And GameStop, with their membership, you immediately get a $5 discount on on the figure. Like if the figure's $34.99, it's already down to no less than about $30, and then you get your monthly $5 reward that can take another $5 off. And if you're a constant buyer, you're accruing points to potentially get higher discounts. So it does pay to shop there if you're going to be a longtime consumer of certain goods. But obviously, as a casual, just browse and go, unless you're a hardcore console gamer, yeah, that's kind of gone down. Um, Maybe if you're looking for like a gift idea, GameStop's kind of become like the new Spencer's in a weird way, where it's like, you go into Spencer's and find a weird knickknack for a or a Hot Topic, where you'd find that like weird knickknack or T-shirt for that game that you like or that your friend likes, and kind of Best Buy's or GameStop's kind of become that now, for better or for worse.
I remember
But
the last time I bought something from there. I did a trade in for whatever it was, right?
mhm,
And I wanted to get what's it called? The gift cards, the like Xbox gift cards, PlayStation gift cards, whatever those are called. And
mhm.
because I didn't want to purchase the game in store, so I just was like, "Hey, can you make the credit towards this?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we can, but we recommend you just buy the disc here in store." I was like, "No, no, I just want the the gift card thingy." Oh yeah,
Yep.
but if you do the disc, you can trade it in sometime. I was like, I know that. I don't want. I just wanted to go digital. And so I understand like why they're doing that because obviously that's where they get their money because the majority of their money comes from resale. But they were just so pushy, and this was 8, 9 years ago
Yeah.
when this
But
happened. So
that's actually interesting that you say that. I feel like that could be a really good topic for at least maybe even just a shorter episode down the road where we talk about like brick and mortar game
oh,
stores,
all right, let's
because
stop talking because we have an
yeah.
idea.
And going on with the news, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remastered was officially announced and released the same day. It is a $49.99 price point, $50. I mean, it's not a full price game, but considering Oblivion's, I want to say at least 10 years old, that is kind of pricey, but it is remastered using the Unreal Engine. It definitely looks nicer, newer esque. Um, I don't know what I know you're not an Elder Scrolls guy, But what is your take on it? Because I know we've had this conversation
Yeah,
about these kind of things.
yeah, it's interesting because yeah, we are pro, we're pro or against, depending on what the game is. If they just make some minor tweaks and try to okay, so when what was that game called? The Bounty Hunter, the Star Wars Bounty Hunter game that came out a couple months back.
Hmm.
They essentially just took the game, made it workable on console and PC, didn't do anything to really change the mechanics of the game, and threw a whatever $30 price tag on it. Well, I don't know if it's 30, it's probably 20. That pissed me off because now you're just trying to cash grab.
Yeah.
We talked about when they relaunched Red Dead Redemption for PC. Well, when they finally brought it to PC, but they
Yeah.
relaunched it on console
First
and
game.
Switch. Yeah, and with that, they actually did some work to it. They
Hmm.
enhanced some, enhanced some of the graphics. The graphics are the same, but they just upscaled them a bit. Did some tweaks and whatever it is, and it works really really well on PC. But the
Yeah.
price was a little high. I would have liked to have seen it lower, but for the amount of work they did to it, okay, sure, whatever. It's a big deal. Dead Space was remastered, and similar to what they've done here with Oblivion, which is a complete redo using the Unreal Engine, and they priced that at I don't know, 40 or $50 as well. So I feel like,
Hmm.
just like we talked about in the episode, if it's a full redone, remastered game, from the ground up with the engine itself, with the graphics itself, with maybe even sound effects in there, then I feel it's worthwhile to do. If you just
Yeah.
throw a sticker price on something that you just make compatible, well, that one kind of it's similar to what we're going to see with some of the Switch 2 stuff. Some of these titles are going
Hmm.
to see a $10 or whatever it is compatibility upgrade so that it is playable on the Switch 2. Nothing actually is changing with the title itself. Those things piss me
Yeah.
off.
I think I heard that Breath of the Wild was only going to be like, it was something like either $7 or $11. I think it was like $11.
But
So
see, the
not
same thing though is it's
terrible,
directly
but
from Nintendo. It is their
yeah.
first party. They should not be
Yeah.
charging anyone for a first party compatibility. Period.
You're not wrong, but we also know that that's not how the industry works. But I do agree with you.
That's the shady
Also,
practices.
yes, you were absolutely right. I will say on top of this, they do have as all of these games do, a deluxe upgrade for an
Oh
extra
yeah,
$10.
of course.
It looks like it
Get a new
includes all of the
staff.
DLC. No, it includes all the DLC.
Okay, okay, okay.
So
That's not
so
bad.
like
That's not bad.
the standard version, you get the base game, you get some story expansion, some DLC. The deluxe edition gets all of that plus new quests for certain areas. Yes, new armors and weapons, and the digital art book. And sounds to me, now that I'm looking at this, outside of a couple new quests for some of the areas, and unless you care about armors and stuff, looks like the deluxe edition really isn't that worthwhile, because as cool as it is, how many people really want a digital art book and soundtrack, especially
Yeah.
when music nowadays is
Nowadays,
so easily downloaded?
yeah, I don't think nowadays, people don't have digital, or I mean, sorry, physical anything anymore. It's all digital.
That's true.
Back in the day, yeah, cool.
Um,
You have the game box and all that jazz, so it would be beneficial to have because you're gonna keep that.
yeah.
Nowadays, I don't know.
So I guess to end the news and to end this part of it. So are we in agreement that given what they've done with Oblivion, this remastered, the $50 price tag, and in this case is acceptable
So here's the thing:
because of
if you're on PC,
Mhm.
GreenManGaming.com has it for like $42. It's a winner. If you are
Yeah,
on Xbox or even on PC, Game Pass has it for the monthly price. So
exactly.
I would say get either one. I probably, well, actually, because Doom Dark Ages comes out next month, I'll get Game Pass for that, and I'll play both. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing
I'm
for
gonna
$10.
see. My only problem with Game Pass is games come on and off of it, and I never know when, because I tried getting Game Pass. You know this, Joe, but the audience doesn't know this. I tried getting Game Pass to play um, Avowed
Oh yeah,
and Liza P. And Liza P. apparently had just come off when I got the Game Pass, so I ended up uh, subbing, playing Avowed for a couple hours, determined that Avowed was I think is a good game, just not for me. and ended up requesting a refund, and they ended up just giving me the or canceling my sub, and they just said, well, you subbed today, you've only had it for, I don't know, I think a total of 6 hours. So they were like, here you go, here's your refund, but you don't have access to the Game Pass anymore as of right now. And I'm like, okay, cool, shit, I'll
Yeah.
take it.
It's a good thing from Microsoft.
Yeah, so I think what I'm probably gonna end up doing is I'm probably gonna end up buying the game at some point, because currently right now, theoretically, fingers crossed, either the very beginning of the month or very soonish, I should be streaming regularly or starting to stream again. I already have planned to play the Bioshock franchise, but after that, actually was thinking about diving into the Oblivion remastered since I never played Oblivion.
Yeah.
This is a good like jump in.
I played it at some point. I don't remember what console. I don't remember what I was playing at the time. Probably 360. But yeah, it'd be fun to go back and play it. I'm excited. Like I said, I'll get it with. I'll see if I can hold my patience long enough because it's like I don't know, 3 weeks away or something.
Speaking about patience, our topic: gaming magazines, demo discs. Back in the day, you'd get those demo discs and you'd have to manually install them.
Were you ever a magazine? Did you ever get like the subscription?
So, fun fact: I was getting the Game Informer from GameStop
until they closed down
in
recently.
the mail. Yeah, in the mail as of last year.
Okay.
I wasn't a huge like. I used to get 2 or 3 magazines every now and then, but it was never like full on every month. Grab that magazine. Grab that magazine. Grab that magazine. But maybe like once a month, spread out throughout the month, or every little bit, I would maybe get a couple of the gaming magazines because I would I didn't mind sitting on the bed for like an hour going through the magazine. But I always, even with the Game Informer, because I don't like clutter, I would read the magazine, and as long as there's nothing in the magazine that I want, for whatever reason, to go back to and reference, I would read it and then throw it out, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah, I got Game Informer when I had the GameStop membership thing for a while there. And that was the
Nintendo
only
Power was the magazine.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was the only magazine I ever actually had a subscription to. And we've talked about it before in the past episodes, but growing up, we didn't have a lot of money on my side of the family. And so whenever we went to a grocery store, I would spend a couple minutes in the, magazine section. I don't even know if grocery stores even have it anymore, other than at the checkout lanes. But I would go, go through the game.
So.
Yeah, I'd go through the game magazines just to kind of see what's out there and drool and wish I had, access to them. But I'm looking at some of the covers for some of the magazines right now, and it's so cool. Like, there was something amazing about seeing a cover of a game that just looks amazing. You're super excited about, versus nowadays where you get a 2 to 3 minute trailer, and then you'll get behind the scenes stuff, and then you get teasers this, and then you get influencers who have early access to it. So you get so much content of these game titles now versus a page and a half of details on that game, and then you have to wait until the actual game comes out.
Yeah, it's weird. Now, tell me if this is just not weird on my part, but especially when some of these places like Game Informer over the last couple of years started to do digital versions of the magazine, I couldn't get into them.
No, zero interest.
It has to be the physical, even though I just got through saying I would read it and throw it away. But I had to have the physical thing to read. If you just told me to pull up Game Informer and go through their digital magazine, I wouldn't do it for whatever reason.
No, yeah.
But
and that's the thing.
It's weird.
A lot of, not just game magazines, but a lot of magazines went digital. They went digital when digital obviously took off, and they still didn't make it because there's something about holding that piece of paper, flipping through those things. Ebooks have been successful because it's a different type of thing. Books tell you stories, whereas magazines are just kind of advertisements for, titles and, news articles. It's a completely different type of industry. And that's where I feel the magazine is massively just bombed out. It's just no interest anymore. The internet is a click away. You can type whatever you want and get that same information in an even more condensed version, or even in a visual audio So many, think of like myself. I make videos for Flight Sim on my YouTube channel. And imagine if there were magazines. There used to be back in the day for Flight Sim, just like any other game, and you would read this stuff. Well, now you can have someone who's actually been using it who can give their opinion of it, a regular person like myself. And
Hmm.
that's where I feel that the magazines have lost all of that because instead of being one editor, one person, now you have countless number of people that can give you feedback.
Yeah, and I think Game Informer was the last holdout.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
remember getting, I remember occasionally getting the old Tips and Tricks magazines
Yep.
that would have like codes or strategy guides. I remember Nintendo Power was huge
Yep.
for people like us who were big
I
Nintendo
think my cousin had that one.
fans. Yep. I'm trying to think. There was a couple others.
PC Gamer was a one that I used to look at a lot.
Yeah, I think they still do something. Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Oh
That was
yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite magazine.
Yep.
I almost that one was one I did almost get all the time. Before Game Informer, that was the Game Informer. That was my Game Informer for the longest time, and then when it kind of went away, then I switched over to reading just Game Informer. But yeah, there was a few that I really really liked, and I kind of missed, and I kind of miss now, but at the same time I don't because it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of those things where it's a very quick burst of serotonin, right? Like
Oh
it's,
yeah.
oh, look at this cool thing, flip through it, read it, whatever. This is really cool. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, but back in the time, you would go back and look at those pictures, those screenshots of gameplay over and over and over. And I think with the transition we've had within our minds as humans, with social media, with instant access to everything, with YouTube Shorts and Instagram and TikTok and all that jazz, where it's 30 seconds of whatever. Back then, we
Yep.
didn't have that. Back then, we'd have this one magazine and we would read and look at it so many times to see if we're missing something out of that magazine. And now there's just so much information out there. The information age, they call it, right? So
Mm,
it's there was something cool about those magazines. They were timeless in a way. And I remember not that long ago, someone had brought in where I worked. Someone had brought in an old magazine. It was a gaming magazine, and I'm looking through it. I'm like, oh, I remember this stuff. I remember this game. I remember the. So it brought back those memories. And
yep.
I think that's something we're gonna lose now with all this digital, all this instant access to stuff, all this consistent information. Is we're gonna lose because our brains can't hold onto that data anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just, I don't know. With a lot of these things, it's kind of one of those things where old becomes new and whatnot. Because think about records. Vinyls went out for the longest time, and now what? The last 2, 3, 4 years, vinyls have slowly been making a return to the point that
Do you think magazines will come
stores.
back?
I could see it. I wouldn't be
Really?
surprised.
Do you think
I
paper would come
wouldn't.
back, huh?
I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't think music would have like physical copies again. And then now it's to the point now, for example, Best Buy sells vinyls. They don't sell CDs. All their music section's gone.
They
They
also
have a
don't sell
vinyl
Blu-rays
section.
anymore either.
Well, you're right. But like go to
Do they even
Walmart.
have do they have discs like game discs still?
Yes.
Okay.
That's something they still do have. The gaming section though has definitely shrunk. I've been to my local Best Buy recently because I used to work there, and it used to be the entire department was full of gaming and gaming accessories, and then maybe you'd have like an aisle that had like the knickknacks, the collector's items, maybe figurines, this that, and now I'd say half of the department is the knickknacks and the other half is the gaming. Xbox has gotten shrunk down to it's like to like a 4 foot section. Same thing with PlayStation. Same thing with Nintendo. It's crazy to see, really. It's fascinating to see how things have changed in just the span of the pandemic. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. The pandemic really did shift because games are still coming out and people didn't want to leave their house and some of these stores were closed earlier because, or weren't letting people in the stores to begin with. So it pushed the age of digital even faster than if COVID never happened, I feel. Because
Yeah, definitely.
think of like curbside pickup and stuff. That was kind of a thing with some stores before COVID, very few of them, but it has blown up ever since that. Think of like you go to Target and you see more parking spots for pickup than you see for
Hmm.
like handicap.
My local Walmart, my
Walmart,
local
yeah, there's
Walmart,
like a whole row just
Walmart
of,
grocery store.
yeah.
Yep.
And like for
Uh,
us, like we do our delivery Walmart pickup, but occasionally I will do the pickup from the store there. So they do all the shopping and then they put it in your vehicle, right?
yep.
And
Hmm.
I do the same thing with Best Buy. Like I don't ever go into Best Buy. If I have to order something via Best Buy that I want same day, I will order on their site and go pick it up. I'll go sit outside the parking lot. They'll come bring it out to my car, and so I don't have to actually go shopping. So the pandemic really has changed the way we as consumers, one, shop, but
Yep.
two, how we shop. It's rather
Yep. And
interesting.
that and it's led to the elimination of more physical things like
Yeah.
physical media, physical, uh,
Maybe Blu-rays would have survived if COVID never happened. Obviously,
or at the
we knew
very
Blu-rays were
least,
slowly going away, but I don't think digital
yep.
movies would have taken off as much.
I think, or at the very least, it would have lasted a little while longer. But yeah, like now the physical media is more for collectors. You collect the physical media, but you watch the media itself digitally.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
because,
Uh,
for example, at Best Buy, they don't really carry Blu-rays and stuff anymore. But I know you could still usually get, like, for example, the Steelbook version of a movie that comes with like a fancy collectible Steelbook, or they'll occasionally do that kind of thing on like a big release. But other than that, they no longer have a DVD Blu-ray section. It's more of like just a panel up at the front of the store with where their new release stuff goes, and there'll be like maybe like a 4 foot section or a 2 foot section of the most like recent movies, and then once those movies become like they don't sell after a certain margin, they get pulled and shipped back to wherever they came from and get replaced by whatever's new and whatnot.
so to get back on topic, because we've kind of gone off a little bit, which we normally do, but
First of
what
all,
yeah, what stands out amazing with these gaming magazines though was the posters inside it. A
oh
lot of
yeah,
them had like the cool 11 by 17 poster you'd put on a wall, and the coolest art ever. I remember a few years, no, I guess this is not a
or
few years, but like a decade ago, PlayStation had
or
an
Laura Croft's block titties.
yeah, PlayStation used to have experiences that you can go to that were at your local theater, and I had gone to one, and they handed all kinds of merch out. They had a PlayStation magazine, they had the posters. I still have some of the posters from that because they were so epic and cool. And along with some of these magazines came game demo discs. And this is where you got to sample some games. And
Yep.
I feel like demos aren't there anymore. There's very few demos that actually come out for a title. And I think it's mostly because these games are more complex than, just like a level that you can have available to consumers to try out. And now it's open world, this and that. And the intros are so much more absorbent. Or not absorbent, what's the word I'm looking for? No,
uh
enormous.
intri- yeah, intricate,
Intricate.
enormous,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. um I want to kind of counter you though. Like, I don't think it's that demos have gone away. I just think that, like, I think naturally we don't look for demos, so we don't think about them. But I'm pretty sure if you go on Steam and like type in demo, or like look around on their section, that they'll pull ups. You could probably find stuff easily that have
So,
demos. It's just that they're not easily. It's not easily broadcasted, for one. And yeah, not every game comes out with a demo, but I also just think that, like, the gaming magazines would have this demo disc in there, and a lot of times it was for a fairly new game that people are looking forward to. And that's why it was kind of more in your face, because you would and you know that the demo disc would be in there because the gaming magazine would be wrapped in plastic, so that way the disc was inside the bag, so you knew you had to buy the magazine. You couldn't browse it uh, to get the disc. And a lot of kids, I'm not saying I did it, but a lot of kids back in the day would open the package, pull out the magazine to read, and maybe pocket the demo disc. I'm just
Okay, so to counter your point, if you go into the Steam section for the demos, top
Uh-huh.
demos, the top 20 demos, not a single one is a AAA title. All are indie titles.
Okay, that's fair.
And that's good. And that goes back to my point saying that the indie titles typically aren't as complex as the AAA title.
I
But
counter
every
your
one of them.
counter.
Okay.
However, with the demos that I'm looking at, for example, on Steam right now, are indie titles, but they are very popular indie titles that are taking up the majority of time on Twitch,
Oh, I
for
agree.
example,
Yeah,
on
they're
streaming
successful.
services.
Yeah, they're very successful titles. There's no doubt about that. And now I just went a little farther down and finally I found a couple AAA. One is the
First
Star Wars
Berserker
yeah, Star Wars Outlaws had had a demo.
that no
But
one played
yeah,
because no one played Outlaws.
but outside of that, out of like whatever 30 titles here, maybe 2 are AAA. The rest are all indie titles.
Yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying, and I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And let's be honest. I feel like the indie titles, do better with having the demo because
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of these
yeah.
games, even though they're cheaper price point,
You don't know if what you're gonna
especially
get, how long
yeah,
they're gonna last, if it's something you're really like. There's not a
exactly.
lot of advertisement behind it. Hmm.
Yeah, whereas like AAA titles, for better or for worse, you kind of know, right? It's like, well, this company, blah blah blah, whether it's Capcom, Square Enix, Bethesda, whoever. Like generally, you know what you're getting from them.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it definitely is better to have the demos for these other games. But no, I definitely get what you're saying. Is that you're not seeing the big AAA titles with the
And
demos anymore?
that's what we used to get. And then obviously the times have
Yes.
changed where back in the day there was no indie titles. There were, but they was very, very tiny compared to now. It was the big stuff, Mario and Sonic and Mortal Kombat and, Skyrim, etc. And now we
Yeah.
have a billion different indie titles out there. Probably
Your
most are
indie
not
titles
great, but
your
there
your
are
indie
still.
titles were the companies that would very potentially put themselves out of business by scrounging up enough
Yeah.
funds to release the game physically and hope and pray that it does well enough that they don't go
Yeah.
broke and bankrupt.
One of the most successful demos, and these were called shareware products, was
Mhm.
Doom and Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because you had access to, a level or so, but then people would sometimes mod it and put their own crap into it, so you could almost have a full-fledged game. Not the actual game from them, but something very similar to it. And I remember
Oh yeah.
playing countless hours of demo games growing up, and even like when I got a 360 and didn't have enough money to buy the full games, like I play. I remember it was one of the NBA Live games where you could download the demo. This wasn't a disc, but you can download the demo directly from the Xbox store, and you can just shoot in the gym. One player, you just shoot in an empty gym. You're not actually playing basketball, you just shoot in the gym. And I put so many hours into just shooting in the gym because I couldn't afford the game, but I really, really wanted to play some basketball. And then eventually, when I got
Oh
the
yeah.
game, I got really good at shooting the ball because I got a lot of practice in that gym.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's like one of those things. Some of those basic ass games that even back then and even now, that it kind of that's what you need. That's what you want sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have a lot of time, but you want to fill that time. You don't have enough time to do anything really structured, right? Like you have a project that you want to do, but you only have like 15, 20 minutes. Or you can't do certain chores in 15 or 20 minutes, whether it be, let's say, you need to wash clothing or do like a full clean of a room or whatever. You might not have the exact time needed to properly do that thing. So these kind of menial basic ass games like that were essentially demos were a good way of like, I got 15 minutes, I can't really get anything substantial done. I want to fill that time doing something though, instead of just staring at a wall. And so that's where a lot of these kind of games can come in and kind of fill that time. And then it's easy to put in, 60 hours plus on something that's not even really a game, because 15 minutes adds up.
Yeah. So Mark, I've been to my share of doctor offices over the past couple of years, and one thing that stood out to me, obviously, really early on, going to these doctor offices is, yeah, there still is that magazine section. There's like 3 or 4 magazines there, but no one's touching them. They're all on their phone, including myself. You're waiting to actually see the doctor. You're just on your phone playing some game, looking on the internet, whatever it be.
Yep.
And these magazines just sit there, and occasionally you'll have some older person go there and grab one of these magazines because they don't know how to use their smartphone or whatever it be, right? But I feel anyone within our age bracket is not touching one of those magazines.
No,
Not touching
no. Like, it was one of those things where back in the day before smartphones became a thing, I used to bring the magazine with me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yep, me too.
To have something to look at or whatever. If I didn't have like a Game Boy or something,
Go on a
I'd bring
car
like a
ride or
gaming
something like that
magazine.
to the store. Yeah, you have a
Yep.
magazine with you. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So okay, going back to demos, we've talked about it a little bit, but Steam Next Fest is the big demo time on Steam. And this is where a lot of the indie titles especially get their press. And we've talked about indie titles a lot in this episode, and we talked about it in the past a lot, where they are small, sometimes just individuals, but small teams of people that have passion to make a game, and they have absolutely zero budget. They're doing these games after work. They're doing it after school. Some of them quit their job and banking all their life on this title to be successful. And that's
Yep.
where the Steam Next Fest hopefully will help some of these games get noticed. We talked about it at the Game Awards, how it's now turned into a great advertisement platform for some of the top indie developers out there, where they can get
Yeah.
their next game out there, and potentially they might turn into a AAA studio at some point. Think of a CD Projekt Red, which everyone now considers a triple A studio, whereas just before Witcher 3, they were still considered a partly indie title or indie studio.
Yep.
On the bigger side for sure, but definitely an indie studio.
Yeah. And the Steam Next Fest is really our modern day gaming magazine demo disc section, and I look forward to it usually, because a lot of those games, I mean, I think it does what it's supposed to do. I found a lot of games that I'd never heard of or weren't on my radar. Easily 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 different games. I could, off the top of my head, like, even if I can't name the actual title, I can definitely be like, that title was definitely indie. I'm interested in that game and that game. I might not know the exact name of the title, but it's like, oh, it's that game that you do this in it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that stuff I saw from Next Fest, or I could just go to my Steam wish list, which a lot of the indie games on my wish list are games that I found through the Next Fest.
So here's a question for you, Mark. You watch YouTube and Twitch game, people playing games on there. What
Yes.
do you feel it would be more beneficial to you? Okay, so you're interested in this game. Let's say there's a new whatever indie game, AAA, whatever. You're interested in that game. Would you rather play a demo, or would you rather watch someone play the game?
Depends on the type of game. It really does. Like, some games have to be played to be enjoyed and understood. A lot of the times, my first exposure to any game is through watching someone else play it, though, because that's my form. Like a lot of other people out there who've gotten away from cable and regular watching of TV, Twitch and YouTube is my entertainment source now. I watch Twitch streamers like I used to watch a TV show.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times some of these content creators are playing games that I've never heard of. And I'm like, what is this game that they're playing?
Mhm.
What is this Blueprints? and it's like ends up being a big game that I'd never heard of, and it blows up overnight because everybody and their mother's playing it. Or that's just to name a few. Obviously, there's also the mainstream stuff, like a lot of content creators right now are playing Elder Scrolls, or whatever else is big, or they have designated things. But then every now and then you'll see like a game like Schedule One, which came out of nowhere as complete indie title, and takes the at least the streaming platforms by storm. And a lot of my creators that I watched for a good week or two straight was streaming nothing but that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just an example. So yeah, a lot of the times my first exposure is through watching a content creator, but I think a lot of the times it depends on the game, because if it's a game that I don't know revolves around decision making or mechanics of the actual game itself, then just watching the person play it, you're not getting the feel for the game. You're just getting a feel for the story or the graphics or whatever, which is still useful. It's just that it, on several occasions, but not all the time, the decision is usually made by finishing it off with the demo. Like, okay, I see this person playing it, looks interesting. Let me see if there's a demo. Oh, there's a demo. Cool. Download it, try it myself. All right. Even if I'm not ready to buy it right now, I'm going to add it to my wish list.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. I'm a little
You're the
different.
opposite, though.
Yeah, I prefer
Because
to
you don't
play the
watch
game.
content creators like I do. Yeah. No,
Nothing.
and
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I do watch, but yeah, definitely not like the way you watch them. I prefer to experience the game myself. Now, if I have
Mhm.
questions about the game and there's no demo, that's where I go to the content creators, or watch
YouTube
trailers or
or
whatever it
yeah.
be. Yeah, and most games don't have demos now, or at least AAA title ones.
Yeah.
But for sure, yeah. If I could, I would much rather do a demo of it than
Yeah.
watch someone
And
play
it's
it.
your point's very valid. Like I think both of our points are valid. I think it just depends on the person, because I mean, for me, and this is not to say that you have more time than me than I do, because I obviously I don't work for a living right now, so I actually I technically have more time than you would, but you are more selective with your games is how I'd put that.
Yeah,
You have a select pocket of games types that you play, and so it's easier for you to get hands-on with those games because you are so selective. Someone like me who's got a decent amount of time on my hands but has a wider variety of games that I'll play. I won't play sports games, I won't play horror games. That's usually my only cutoff. Anything else I'm fairly open-minded about. So it's a lot more easy for me to find a streamer or a content creator who's playing the game before instantly going to the demo. Whereas you, who is a lot more selective on what you play, it's probably easier and better for you to just go and get the demo and get hands-on with it than to try and find a bunch of different people who are playing it and they're in different stages of the playthrough. So you're not getting like what you want out of watching someone play it.
yeah. And like when Avowed came out, I was interested. There's no demo, so I was interested one in the initial trailer that they announced, and then some of the content creators had early access to it, so I watched a couple of them, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool. Like I'd really like to try it out. Well, that's where Game Pass came in, because it's
Yep.
somewhat of a demo. It's a paid demo, but nevertheless, it's you get to experience it and end up falling in love with the game and playing it all through Game Pass and having a great time with it. And that's kind of my expectations going to have with Doom, Dark Ages, and Oblivion next month when I get Game Pass. Is I'll be able to try them, and if I don't like them, well, it is what it is. I spent $10.
Yeah,
But
no, that's
I
exactly.
I won't be able to get the same experience by watching someone,
No, and a
do
lot
their
of times you
experience.
can't.
It's like
A
it's
lot
like a
of, and
reviewer, a movie reviewer. They're going to give you
yeah,
their perspective of it, their experience of it, and you can go to a movie and your mind just not there, right? Your mind's not excited to go
yeah.
to that movie and
It,
see it, so you're thinking it differently than what the movie is versus being super excited, and you might have a
yes,
different experience then too.
And kind of bouncing off of that, it's also why spoilers don't bother me as much as it might for other people. If I'm watching a content creator play a game, right, and let's say I see a major spoiler for a game, a lot of the times it often doesn't bother me because I'm watching them play it and watching them react to the thing, but I'm not experiencing it for myself. I'm not in the moment. I've not been playing the game for 20 hours, 30 hours, and then leading up to that big reveal of something.
Yeah.
So yes, I might know what's going to happen, but the feeling is different because I'm not doing it myself.
Here, that's a beautiful example because okay, so no spoilers on this at all, zero. Last of Us season 2 launched what, a week and a half ago or so on HBO.
Are you talking about how blah blah? I was about to say it.
And so so the game also came out on PC, and this is my first time actually playing on the game. Period. I played the first one on PS4, I think it was, and then PC. But anyways,
Nah.
second one's on PC now, so I started playing it so I can prepare because I want to play the game first and then experience the show. And playing through the story, wow, cool, okay, things happen, right? And then you get to experience the same things in the show, and I'm equally just as shocked and awed as I was playing the game. It was a completely different type, but I was still like, holy F, this just happened. And that's a great example. Here's one where I actually played the game itself, and then here's one where it's a show, or think of it as a YouTuber who's playing the game for me, right? And I'm experiencing that same thing. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what Joe's saying is, don't go golfing anytime soon.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Hey, there's not Tiger Woods in there. Don't just say that.
No, it's definitely not a Tiger Woods thing.
All right. Do we have anything else to add to this episode, Mark?
No, I'm good.
Well, cool. I think this is a cool episode. This is it's just one of those episodes where it's like we're thinking of more content to do for the show, something that obviously has to do with games but doesn't at the same time, and this kind of bridged two together, and also opened up the doors for the potential next episode of Brick and Mortar Stories, which would be really, really cool to segue into that episode from what we've been talking about today, something that has a big part of history when it comes to gaming and entertainment, and that it has been fundamentally changed big time in the past decade. So
yeah, it's almost like like someone came up with the idea literally as we were recording this episode.
I'm so glad I thought about it while while we're doing this.
You're so good with that kind of thing.
I'm just amazing. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you for the next episode.
Bye-bye.